It was supposed to be the happiest week of my life. The ivory-laced dress, with a soft, delicate train I had saved for month after month, was hanging in my closet. It felt like a promise. The venue, a beautifully converted barn with strings of fairy lights looped across the high wooden beams, had been booked nearly a year ago. Ethan, my fiancé, had already perfected his vows. I'd caught him whispering them to his reflection in the mirror just yesterday, his voice full of a love that made my heart feel safe. I was in the kitchen, a smile on my face, as I finalized the catering menu with our planner on the phone. When they walked in, my father's face was red, his lips pressed together in a line so thin it almost disappeared. My mother trailed behind him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her eyes holding that specific, cruel glint of satisfaction she only ever got right before she was about to shatter my world. "Hang up," my dad barked, his voice leaving no room for argument. I hesitated, the pen still hovering over the menu options. "What? Why?" "Because," my mother's voice slid into the space, slick and dripping with poison, "there is no wedding." The entire room seemed to tilt on its axis. The cheerful voice of the planner on the phone faded into a distant buzz. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my voice barely a breath of air. My dad slapped a thick folder down on the kitchen counter. It was my folder, the one holding all the receipts, invoices, and signed contracts I had so carefully organized. He shelved it toward me with a single, dismissive finger. "We're not paying for this circus," he said, a cold, ugly smile spreading across his face. "It's over." A nervous laugh escaped my lips. It had to be a joke, a twisted, horrible joke. "Dad, that's not funny. Everything is already booked. The deposits are We pulled them," my mother interrupted, her tone sharp and triumphant. "We called every single vendor this morning. We canceled the whole thing." My throat constricted, and I could feel the air being squeezed from my lungs. "You what?" My dad leaned in closer, his breath hot and smelling of bitter coffee. "You should be grateful we even let this little fantasy go on for as long as it did. A sideshow act like you doesn't deserve a main stage. You really think we're going to waste our hard-earned money just so you can play dress-up as a bride? Not a chance." My mother's laugh was a sharp, piercing sound, like the shattering of glass. "You, in a white dress. Please." People would choke on their food from laughing so hard. "It's better to end it now before you completely embarrass yourself, and by extension, us." My knees felt weak, and I gripped the edge of the counter to keep myself from falling. My chest felt like it was caving in, a heavy pressure crushing my ribs. "How could you?" I whispered, the words tearing at my throat. "How could you do this to me?" Right on cue, as if she'd been waiting in the wings for her moment, my sister Rachel walked in. Her timing was always impeccable when there was blood in the water. She glanced at the folder on the counter, then at my pale, shocked face, and a smirk spread across her lips. "Guess the show's canceled. Should have known they'd never waste real money on you." "Shut up," I snapped, my voice cracking, betraying the tears that were already burning behind my eyes. Her smirk only widened. "Don't take it so personally. It's not like anyone important was actually going to show up anyway. Who would want to come and watch you stumble your way down the aisle? You're not exactly main character material, are you?" My mother let out a cackle and slapped the counter with her hand. "She's right. If we had let this pathetic wedding go on, it would have been humiliating for all of us. Nobody wants to see trash pretending to be a treasure. We saved you from being a laughingstock." The cruel irony of her words hit me with the force of a physical blow. They were the ones laughing at me. Right now, they were laughing at my dreams, my hopes, everything I had carefully and lovingly built with Ethan. My father's voice dropped, becoming even lower, even crueler. "Be thankful we even bothered to raise you. Now sit down, shut your mouth, and stop acting like you deserve anything more than the scraps we decide to throw your way. You're not special. You never were." The phone in my hand slipped from my grasp and clattered onto the counter. The planner's muffled, cheerful voice chattered on for a moment before the line went dead. My vision blurred as their laughter filled the room, swelling into a monstrous chorus. Rachel was actually clapping her hands, as if she were applauding the final act of a brilliant performance. I stumbled back, away from them, and fled to my room. I slammed the door shut and slid down against the wood, my body shaking. My chest heaved with silent, agonizing sobs. My stomach twisted into such a tight knot I was sure I was going to be sick. The beautiful dress hanging in the closet now seemed like a cruel joke, a white ghost mocking me from its hanger. The neat stack of wedding invitations on my dresser might as well have been blank pieces of paper. An hour later, there was a gentle knock on the door. "Honey, it's me." Ethan's soft voice came from the other side. "What happened?" I couldn't even form the words to tell him. When I opened the door, I just collapsed into his arms. The sobs I'd been holding back finally breaking free in a gut-wrenching flood. He held me tight against his chest, stroking my hair and whispering, "We'll figure this out. I love you. I promise, we will figure this out." But as he held me, a storm was gathering inside my mind. They thought they could just erase my future with a few phone calls. They thought they could laugh in my face, tear me to shreds, and then just walk away without any consequences. They were wrong. This time, I wasn't just going to cry and absorb their cruelty. This time, I was going to make them regret every single word. The next morning, the air in the house was thick with the sour smell of their triumph. It felt like their laughter had seeped into the walls. I couldn't even look at my closet door without my hands starting to shake. I could see the dress in my mind's eye, a symbol of a future they had stolen from me. Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed, his hands clasped tightly. "We could still do it," he said quietly, his voice full of hope. "We don't need their money. We can go to the courthouse. We can make it work." A part of me wanted to cling to that hope, but the reality was too harsh. I thought of the thousands of dollars in deposits they had ripped away, the vendors they had so smugly counseled behind my back. I thought of the sheer humiliation of calling every single guest, every friend and family member, to say, "Never mind, the wedding is off." My parents had ensured the damage wasn't just financial. It was a deep, public humiliation. "No," I whispered, the word tasting like defeat. "That's what they expect. For me to have some small, sad little ceremony. For me to feel small. For me to eventually crawl back and beg for their forgiveness. They want to laugh at me again." Ethan looked at me, his eyes dark with a protective anger, but soft with a deep, unwavering love. "Then don't give them the satisfaction," he said, his voice firm. "Don't let them see you choke. Make them choke instead." Those words lit a fire inside of me. It started as a tiny spark in the ashes of my broken heart, but with every passing second, it grew hotter and brighter. Later that afternoon, while my parents were lounging in the living room watching television, and Rachel was busy posting selfies with captions like, "Some days are just for relaxing. No drama here," I slipped into my dad's home office. After years of being their family scapegoat, I knew where they kept everything important: the folders, the bank statements, all the documents that held the real truth behind the perfect facade they presented to the world. I pulled open the bottom drawer of his heavy oak desk, and there it was. Not a portfolio of success, but a pile of shame. Overdue mortgage notices, final demands for unpaid credit cards, stacked in precarious towers. They weren't powerful and in control. They were drowning in debt, desperately trying to keep their heads above water. And they had dared to call my future a waste of money. My hands shook, not with fear, but with a surge of adrenaline. I took out my phone and snapped photos of every single incriminating page. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just looking at my parents. I was seeing the deep cracks in their armor. Over the next week, I became a different person. I didn't scream or fight. I didn't cry in front of them. When they mocked me at the dinner table, I just smiled, a small, empty smile. I nodded. I let them believe I was broken. And while they were basking in their victory, I was quietly moving my pieces across the board. I called the vendors myself. I confirmed exactly what my parents had said when they canceled. Most of them were polite, but their words still stung. "Your parents said you were having financial trouble and couldn't pay." My cheeks burned with shame as I listened, but I calmly wrote down everything they said. More proof, more bricks for the wall I was building. One evening, Rachel carelessly left her phone on the kitchen counter. I saw the screen light up with a notification from a group chat with her friends. She had sent them a photo of my wedding dress, hanging in my closet with the caption, "It's still hanging there like she thinks she's Cinderella, LMAO, more like the sad little maid." Rows of laughing emojis followed from her friends. My heart twisted, but my hands were steady as I took a screenshot before placing the phone exactly where I found it. Every cruel text, every piece of evidence, was another stone in my arsenal. At night, Ethan and I would talk in hushed whispers. "What if they find out what you're doing?" he asked, his voice laced with worry. They won't, I said, my eyes fixed on the glow of my laptop screen. Because their greatest weakness has always been their arrogance. They've spent my entire life underestimating me. They'll never, ever believe that I have the spine to actually strike back. And I was going to strike back, not just to fix what they broke, but to make them feel a fraction of the pain they had caused me. I wanted to watch the smugness drain from their faces. I wanted them to remember the moment they called my wedding a circus and laughed, and I wanted them to regret it for the rest of their lives. When I was finished, they wouldn't just lose their power over me. They would lose the one thing they treasured more than anything, the illusion that they were untouchable. The day that was supposed to have been my wedding day arrived. Instead of the soft music of a ceremony, the house was filled with loud chatter and the clinking of wine glasses. My parents had decided to throw a large family dinner party, inviting neighbors, relatives, and even some of Rachel's friends. They were turning my day of heartbreak into a public spectacle, a platform to gloat about how they had saved me from my own foolish disaster. I stood in the hallway with Ethan, his hand holding mine tightly. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding against my ribs like a drum. They thought I was a defeated little girl, but tonight, this was my stage. My dad tapped his fork against his wine glass, a self-satisfied smirk on his face as he addressed the crowded dining room. We had to make a tough choice recently, he announced, his voice booming with false sincerity. But sometimes, parents just know best. We weren't about to stand by and watch good money be wasted on a circus. Stepping into the dining room, I finished his sentence for him. A circus. The room fell completely silent. Dozens of pairs of eyes swiveled to look at me. My parents' smug smiles faltered, a flicker of confusion in their eyes. That's a funny choice of words, I continued, holding up my phone, because I brought a little presentation for everyone to see. I tapped the screen, and the large smart TV in the corner of the room flickered to life. Slide after slide began to fill the screen, scans of the overdue mortgage bills, the final demand notices, the letters threatening foreclosure, every single piece of paper I had photographed in my father's desk. A wave of gasps rippled through the guests. My mother's face went completely white. My father's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. This, I said, my voice sharp and clear, cutting through the stunned silence, is the real circus, the house you love to brag about. It's days away from being repossessed, the lifestyle you pretend to have. It's built on a mountain of debt and lies. And you had the nerve to call my wedding a waste of money. At least my love for Ethan isn't built on deceit. Rachel shot up from her chair, her face turning a blotchy red. Turn it off right now, she shrieked, but I didn't. The next slide appeared. It was the screenshot of her group chat, her cruel message about my dress, her friends' laughing emojis, all of it displayed for everyone to see. The gasps turned to angry murmurs. Some of the guests were shaking their heads in disgust, looking at Rachel with contempt. My mother stumbled forward, her voice trembling with rage. You are trying to humiliate us in our own home. No, I cut her off, my voice cold as ice. You did that to yourselves. You did it when you smashed my dream for your own entertainment. You did it when you laughed in my face while my heart was breaking. You called me trash, and you did it without a second thought. Ethan stepped forward to stand beside me, his voice calm but firm. You were supposed to be her family. You were supposed to protect her. Instead, you have done nothing but try to destroy her. After everything you've put her through, you don't deserve her. The silence in the room was suffocating. My father, the man who had always stood so tall and proud, dropped his gaze to the floor. My mother clutched her wineglass, her knuckles white. Rachel had sunk back into her chair, frozen in humiliation, as whispers erupted all around her. One of the neighbors muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear, "So that's the truth of it." Their carefully constructed empire of lies and fake respect had crumbled to dust in a matter of minutes. I took a deep, steadying breath, feeling the weight of years of their cruelty finally lifting from my shoulders. You wanted me to be broken. You wanted me to come crawling back to you. But now, everyone in this room sees you for exactly what you are. I took Ethan's hand and turned toward the front door. Enjoy your circus, I said coldly over my shoulder, because I'm done being your clown. As we walked out, the guests parted for us like the Red Sea. Behind us, I heard the sounds of their world collapsing. My mother's first hysterical sob, my father's choked growl of fury, and Rachel's frustrated scream. Ethan squeezed my hand. As we stepped out into the cool night air, we walked away from that house, leaving it behind us. A place no longer filled with their arrogant laughter, but with the smoking ashes of their pride. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel like the one who had lost something. I felt like the one who had finally, truly won.